Hello, and welcome to the Rough Edges podcast with Sarah I. Fox. In this podcast, I will guide you through my faith and mental health journey to dispel the stigma surrounding mental illness and to create an empowering resource for those who wish to discover more about these topics. I pray that this podcast will not only bless you, but that it will bring growth and healing to our communities. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Rough Edges. Today, I am joined by a very special guest. Her name is Dr. Amee Shah. Dr. Amee Shah is a trailblazer, boldly navigating her professional life and her journey with epilepsy. She has a no-holds-barred approach to mental health advocacy that challenges the stigma that often surrounds invisible illnesses and mental health. Her story is more than just about survival. It's about thriving in the face of adversity. Welcome, Amee.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's nice to be here.
Yes, I am so excited to have you here. And before we dive into our topic for today, can you tell me 3 things that you're most passionate about and why?
Oh, taking it down to 3 is tough, but I would say the top 3 are advocacy, education, and self-care. I am truly passionate about all 3 of those, and they're very important and crucial to my growth.
Yes. Oh, I definitely love that. And especially about like the advocacy and the education and just like everything that you're passionate about. And I would really love to know, like, could you share more about how you were first diagnosed with epilepsy? Like, how did you feel when you first got the diagnosis and how did you learn to manage it over time?
Yeah, I was really, really young, so feelings associated with that are kind of a blur. And my first seizure was at 8 years old. I was in my parents' room in a safe space. They obviously had no idea what was going on. There's no history of this in our family. They had no education behind what the term was, right? They called 911. They're like, my child is over here convulsing. I don't know what to do. Of course, you're just going to call EMS.
Mm-hmm.
And it started with that. And since then, it's just been a journey. So we did that. We found a pediatric neurologist about 90 minutes away from our house because we lived in a small town, and went through all of the testing that anyone who has epilepsy or knows someone with epilepsy may know, EKGs, EEGs, blood work, all negative, negative, negative. Everything showed up normal. At that point, what do? You turn to medications, right?
Right.
Something had to be done. So we started a medication. Growing up, I was never told not to talk about it, but it's just something we didn't talk about or disclose. And it didn't affect me very much. I lived a fairly normal childhood, and it didn't prevent me from doing things that quote unquote normal children, whatever that means, do.
Mm-hmm.
All of my seizures occurred at night. And at night, I was always in a safe place. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore it didn't really, fortunately, affect my day to day. And so that's how it started. I go on to college. I still didn't disclose it to anyone. I would be the one that'd go in the bathroom and take medications and come back out and dance with all my friends. It was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, do they need to know? Not really. It's probably going to be okay. I'm going to be home at night, and all is well. Again, very fortunate to be in this situation because this is not the typical story of someone who is diagnosed with epilepsy. So I find the silver lining through all of this as I even tell my story. I went on to graduate school, got a doctorate. Again, didn't disclose it to anybody. Went on with oh, everything's fine. And here we are today. I went into my first round of, oh my God, I have a condition and this is real, when my husband and I were family planning and wanted to have our first child. That was an intentional decision. We switched medications. my body did not like that.
Mm,
And that's when it was kind of in my face. And I had to stop doing what I normally did.
mm,
It, it affected my lifestyle. I, at that point, didn't disclose it either. I thought in my head, if this works and we can get through this difficult period, we're going to have a child. It was to the point where we questioned whether having a family was right for us at all in general. We fortunately have two children today that are healthy. And so we made it through that hump. Again, not really having to disclose it to anybody outside the two of us. And here I am in my 40s, looking back and wondering, why the hell did I not talk about this? I have run into a little bit more challenging situation, and I was going to be hospitalized electively, chosen to be hospitalized for 5 days because it was time. It was time to really face this and say, you know what, let's see if we can get more answers than we've had all these years.
mm,
That is when I decided to set the stage of intentionally talking about it and putting out there what was going on because I was not going to be on a beach for 5 days.
yeah.
So that's where we are. And that's where my advocacy and education started.
Wow.
And
Yeah, I love that. And I love how honest and real it is because when you do, like, if you do get diagnosed with a mental health condition, you do not want to disclose it to anybody because you feel that fear of rejection and judgment and the fear that like people may not understand or may look at you differently. And I just want to know also like what was the like the moment you felt like I just can't keep this into myself anymore. Like I have to become an advocate and like share this information and education with other people. Like what was like the determining moment for you?
the moment was when I posted a picture of me having EKG leads on me, and I had so many people reach out. I was told to take it down, but I also had a lot of people with a lot of questions. And I was refused to take it down because I said, this is the time, and this is an opportunity, and this is therapeutic for myself to
Mm,
talk. None of that would have come together had it not been for that moment.
mm. Wow. Yeah, oh, I could just imagine like the initial fear of like, should I post this? Should I not? But I just love how you just still boldly decided, I'm gonna share this with everyone, you know?
Yeah, I had to set the stage because 5 days is a long time to,
Hmm.
one, leave my children, but two, take off of work, three, tell my friends I'm not going anywhere. I mean, they can see through you. And even my closest friends didn't know.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
that was when I'm going to go big or I'm going to go home, and
right.
he goes, I'm going to put it out in the universe and my friends are going to find out the same way everyone else is.
Mm. Yeah, I understand that for sure. And what would you say are some lessons that you've learned like with your experience in managing your epilepsy?
It's okay to be selfish and put yourself first, was the first one. As a woman, a mom, business owner, yada, yada, which none of that matters after you have been through any sickness or dealing with an invisible illness, chronic illness, mental health, none of those things matter. And you don't realize it for me until I had to go through this.
Mm,
And I have learned it is not selfish to put myself first because that is what I needed to be there for everybody else.
right.
Also learned you can be vulnerable. It's okay to admit to yourself that you are not perfect.
Mm,
It's okay to reach out to somebody.
yes. Yes. Oh, I love both of those, especially like self-care is not selfish. And a lot of the times, like people think, oh, if you want to take time for yourself, and I can only imagine, especially as a mom, like just dealing with the whole, like, okay, I want to take time for myself, but I also want to be able to be there for others and take care of my kids and take care of like other things that I need to handle. But at the same time, you can't give from an empty cup. And like you were saying, like you need to take care of yourself first in order to even begin to take care of other people, you know? So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it was the hardest thing to accept. And, we live in this culture where you just have to give, give, give. And sometimes you just can't. And now I've changed my entire rhetoric and it's not selfish. It's needed. Because
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So, what would you say are some of the most challenging and rewarding aspects of being a mental health advocate? Hello again. Before you dive into the rest of today's episode, I just wanted to say thank you so much for your support and for hitting that play button. If you want to expand on that support, here are 3 ways that you can do so. 1. Leave a review. If anything in today's episode resonated with you, or you want to share how the podcast changed your life, you can do so by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or Podchaser. 2. Check out our shop. The Rough Edges shop is a faith based, women of color owned online shop where you can get a variety of products from tote bags, journals, t shirts, crew necks, and more. 20% of the proceeds go to a mental health organization. So check it out at roughedgespodcast.com/shop. 3. Connect on social media. Rough Edges is on a variety of social media platforms, including Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and more. If you want to connect outside of listening to the podcast episodes, you can do so on those platforms. If you have any more questions or want more information on the ways that I've just discussed, you can check out the episode description or stay to the end for more information. Now, enjoy your episode.
the most challenging is not everybody is going to understand you. And that's okay.
Mhm.
And the most rewarding is the people that do hear you, they see you, and they support you. And
Mm,
if there is one person out there who is dealing with the same thing, like I have been hiding, sitting in a corner, putting that projection of everything is fine, there is one person that my story, sharing my story, allows permission for them to share theirs, then I'm doing my advocacy.
mm. Yes, yes, absolutely. And I do love what you said about some people won't get you, but the people that do understand, it is just like you feel that level of comfort and relief of like, oh, I'm so glad that I was able to share my story and find this wonderful community of people who are also advocating and are willing to rally around me in those moments too. What are some things that, because I know there's a stigma surrounding like most invisible illnesses and also like mental health conditions. So, like, what are 2 stigmas about epilepsy specifically that you wish would change and why?
Discrimination and bullying.
Mm, yeah.
I did not disclose it as a young age. I believe now, it's hard to say exactly, but I see kids with the condition who worry about bullying. I've had parents reach out to me. I've had people in the community reach out to me and tell me these heartbreaking stories of what these children have endured
Mm,
every single day. And having children of my own, it really hurts to hear that.
mm-hmm.
And that continues the cycle of stigma and not
Yeah.
telling anyone. Same with discrimination. Number 2 is you've seen someone deal with it or you feel it, and therefore the cycle continues.
Right.
What are people going to think? How is this going to affect me everywhere I show up? And those fears is because of the stigma.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. And it's so that is heartbreaking to see that something that you're managing or learning how to manage that is out of your control and you're being discriminated against and bullied for it. It makes it hard for you to be able to know how to show up for yourself, especially when other people are not really understanding how to navigate even you being in the space. And that's heartbreaking to me too, to see that kids are dealing with who especially who have to live with a condition like epilepsy or just like other conditions in general and still having that fear of being bullied for something that is out of their control and that they're even learning how to manage themselves. So I am grateful for advocates like yourself who are standing up against that stigma and fighting to change it because that is something that keeps us silent and it paralyzes us, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't imagine being the parent. I have two children, of seeing my child be bullied, discrimination even in adults for something they cannot control. It just breaks my heart. And it's comes from a source of lack of education, interest, and that's where the advocacy comes in.
Yes, yes, I absolutely agree. And even on that point, like as a parent, because I know like you're a mom and you have two children, and just to be able to see like how other parents navigate it, if you could speak to a parent who is struggling to learn how to manage like, the bullying and other things that come with helping their child deal with a condition like epilepsy, like what would you say to that parent?
You're not alone, and it's hard. And you're gonna have days where you feel like you can't do this and you don't know what to do for your child. I mean, that's how my parents felt with me. You can't do my I mean, there's a list of things you can do, but beyond that, it's out of even a parent's control. And all parents want to see is their children thrive. And I've spoken to some parents, and I agree, if I were in the situation, I may feel the same way. Why is it not me?
Mm,
If you don't want to see a child go through that, you want to take their pain, but you can't. And so it's finding ways to support them through the journey and uplifting them and encouraging them, instilling confidence in them and having them embrace who they are fully and proudly and showing up as themselves.
mm. Yeah, yes, most definitely. I love that. Just knowing how to show up and provide support, even when it's confusing and it's just like a lot of complications, but just knowing how to show up and support, that's like very important. I do also want to talk about how you were able to manage with like epilepsy and just how you learned to like change your perspective in terms of how you dealt with it. So, how did you learn to have that perspective shift and how did that shift help you to manage your epilepsy?
Oh man, that wasn't overnight, and I still struggle with that. But for me, it truly took sitting with myself. I mean, I've been in denial that I've had a condition my entire life. And come January, when it's in your face and it stops you from doing what living the hamster wheel life that you only know, and you can no longer do that, you're forced to sit with yourself. And that is so hard. And you have to come to the acceptance and you have no other choice. I had two choices. I could sit and feel sorry for myself, which I did, which I think is necessary, which I think is very crucial to my process. and then take it by its horns and
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, you got me this way, but what can I do? And focus on what I can do. You can be a part of me, but I will not allow you to control all of me.
Mm.
And that takes time. That took me sitting. I mean, it was heartbreaking. I couldn't show up for my kids when I needed to. I couldn't show up for my family and my friends. And you feel robbed
Mm.
of, of what other people can freely do. But I took that energy at some point and was like, there has to be somebody else going through the same thing. They're just not talking about it the same way I'm not talking about it.
Mm.
And how can I turn this into something positive? And for me, it took focusing on what I can do and kind of slowing down and focusing on positive things and feeding my brain with positivity and conquering. And, you know, today is a bad day, but tomorrow may be better. It really, sometimes it's taking it day by day, and sometimes it's taking it hour by hour. It's not even about the condition, it's about the medications we need to, the effects of the medications.
Mm-hmm.
They control you and they change you. And changing your mindset, for me, changing my mindset personally, was how I was able to say, I can control what I can control. And that's it. It's a process. It's still a process. I mean, don't get me wrong. Just the other day, my son wanted to go get cookies. And, after 7 or 8, I'm just spent. I'm just done. I'm tired. And I know there's going to be health repercussions if I continue my day. And it's really hard to tell him, like, I'm tired. I can't do this. And it was something so small that he wanted. And I've gotten to that point where, do I choose myself or do I choose something so small that my child who earned this is asking for? And I had to choose myself, and it hurt. And it was hard. I was in tears over a cookie, over something so small. But it was the concept of, I have to reach out to my tribe, and maybe somebody else can go take him to get this. And
Mm.
maybe the two can coexist. And that's exactly what I did.
Mm.
John's cookie, and I stayed home and had to rest.
Wow. Oh, I love that. I really love like the balance, that you found. And like you said, it didn't happen overnight and it still hurt. And I love that you acknowledge that, hey, I do need to take care of myself. It hurts, but I gotta choose me. And what you said about slowing down and really like acknowledging what are things that I can do, because I completely understand. It's like you're not really operating at a level that you want to operate half the time. You're just like, oh man, I wish I could do like all these 10,000 things and still keep doing the things that I also love on the side. But it's important to slow down. And I love that you mentioned that. Like you needed to prioritize just sitting with yourself and acknowledging, okay, here's what I can't do, but here's what I can do. And really like taking it day by day. And like you said, hour by hour, because we don't slow down enough. We really don't. Like we're moving 24/7. So it's important to just take that time to just
I
prioritize yourself.
Yeah, I was that person who woke up and it was like the list of things I gotta do. I would have this top 3 list of, I need to get X, Y, and Z done today, no matter what, by the end of the day, for myself, for my kids, whoever it was for. And now, every other day, one of the things on my list is rest and reflect.
Mm, yeah.
And that is productive to me now.
Yes.
2023, it's like, there's no time for that. What a waste. That was wasting time. But now it's not a waste of time. It's necessity for my time.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
That mindset shift and accepting that has taken a lot of time. And now I embrace it.
Yes, yes. I'm learning to embrace it. I'm still like on the like, oh, there are things that I need to do and gotta do. But no, it is true. It's the rest and reflect is definitely necessary, especially when you're dealing with, epilepsy or just another mental health condition that you really need to learn how to manage. Like you need to take that time to rest and reflect and build it into your day because it is imperative.
Yes, that is more important than the things I used to think were important after going through this and still going through it.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. Well, Amy, I enjoyed our conversation, but before we go, I have one last question for you. So, what advice or words of encouragement do you have for somebody who is struggling to manage their mental health?
Your journey is going to be up and down, but your journey with mental health is a story of resilience. I want you to own it. I want you to share it. And I want you to use it as an inspiration to others.
Yes. Oh, that was so good. And I love and appreciate your story of resilience too. And thank you so much for sharing. And where can people find you if they want to learn more?
I'm on Instagram at Behind the Bindies, and that has a cultural significance. So it might not make sense to some, but that is one of the stigmas was a cultural stigma for me. And if you go through my page, it kind of explains a little bit. And if not, send me a DM. We can chat more. That's where my story is, and that's where I'll continue to share my journey.
Yes, awesome. And I will definitely have that in the description so you guys can check it out. And everyone stay tuned for more empowering episodes on Rough Edges. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Rough Edges podcast with Sarah I. Fox. If you want more updates on the podcast, you can follow on Instagram at rough.edges.podcast, or you can visit the official podcast website at roughedgespodcast.com. Thanks again for listening and have a wonderful day.